You do not perceive reality directly, you perceive a psychologically regulated version of it. The human mind continuously alters perception in order to minimize internal tension, stress, and anxiety. This distortion is not random, nor is it pathological by default. It is a regulatory function designed to preserve emotional stability and psychological coherence. As a result, what we experience is rarely an objective, complete, or unfiltered representation of events. Instead, perception is selectively modified into a safer and more tolerable construction of reality. Behavior, decision-making, and meaning-making then emerge from this constructed interpretation rather than from raw external input. Emotions constitute the primary interface between external reality and internal mental representation. They do not merely accompany cognition, they organize it. Emotional responses determine which stimuli are attended to, how they are evaluated, and whether they are perceived as threatening, irrelevant, or meaningful. To understand why these emotional filters operate the way they do, one must examine their developmental origins. These filters are formed early in life, during childhood, within a critical developmental window when neural systems responsible for attachment, threat detection, and emotional regulation are still under construction. During this period, the brain exhibits heightened plasticity and pronounced vulnerability to environmental cues. Experiences are absorbed through internalization, observational learning, and ongoing interaction with caregivers and surroundings. Meaning is not taught explicitly, it is encoded implicitly through repeated emotional patterns. Within this developmental context, parents typically become the earliest and most influential figures. Their emotional availability, responsiveness, and consistency shape the foundational architecture of the child's emotional processing systems. These early relational dynamics leave lasting imprints that extend well beyond conscious memory. Over time, these accumulated emotional experiences form an interpretive filter through which reality is continuously perceived. Events are no longer evaluated neutrally, but are processed through emotionally encoded templates that influence interpretation, expectation, and recall. Consider the case of an individual raised by a rejecting or emotionally unavailable caregiver. In adulthood, when that individual encounters situations that resemble early relational dynamics, the brain does not reassess the situation from scratch. Instead, it rapidly activates established emotional templates. Through this mechanism, perception becomes emotionally biased. The mind presents a safer, self-protective, and pre-interpreted version of reality, one designed to reduce perceived threat rather than to enhance objective accuracy. The goal is regulation, not truth. Once established, this pattern of interpretation becomes structured and self-reinforcing. The individual begins to navigate life through a stable interpretive channel. This channel shapes expectations, predicts outcomes, and constrains perception, often outside conscious awareness. These channels function as cognitive emotional frameworks that simplify environmental complexity and enhance psychological predictability. From an adaptive perspective, they reduce uncertainty. From a developmental perspective, they prioritize emotional survival. Such frameworks are notably resistant to change because their formation precedes conscious cognition. They are emotional before they become cognitive, implicit before they become explicit. This sequence is explained by early neural organization. Initial processing is dominated by subcortical systems involved in emotion, arousal, and threat detection. Emotional signals are registered and categorized before higher-order cortical appraisal occurs. These early emotional evaluations establish a baseline mood state and orient attention accordingly. Cognition then builds upon this emotional groundwork, providing explanations, narratives, and justifications after the emotional position has already been set. Understanding, therefore, emerges from emotion rather than preceding it. Reasoning follows effect. The architecture of the mind develops upon this emotional foundation. Through it, a particular version of reality is repeatedly constructed, experienced, and reinforced, gradually solidifying into what feels like objective perception.